right, I believe we are live, so I'm going to go ahead and kick things off. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're going to be sitting down with Tom Davidock of Outdoor Miles, which is the source for RV-related information on the internet, a website that I hope that you've been to or will go to after you hear our interview today. Outdoor Miles provides RV community members with tools, resources, and knowledge they need to make the most of their time on the road. So we're going to be discussing what's new in the RV industry, what to look forward to in the near and exciting future as an RVer. Be sure to stay tuned throughout the broadcast because we are also going to be doing a giveaway. So like or comment on this video to be entered, and you will need to be on at the end when we announce the winner. And we'll be giving away one of Tom's favorite RV gadgets. So he'll tell us a little bit more about that. Tom, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and talk RVing with you a little bit.
Awesome. So as a way of introduction for me, my name is Stacy. I'm the marketing director for Wholesale Warranties. Outdoor Miles and Tom is one of our affiliate partners. We always want to work with companies and websites that provide a lot of genuinely useful information to the RV community, so they certainly fit the bill there. Tom, let's go into a little bit about your history as an RVer. How did you get into RVing?
Well, I don't think my experience is unlike a lot of other people's. I didn't grow up RVing, but I spent a lot of time when I was younger camping. I remember like being a kid and grabbing my blanket and pillow and everything else from my house and heading back into the forest behind my house with my friends and camping for a night. And I did a lot of that when I was younger. And then as I got older, I got into a lot of different outdoor activities, hiking and backpacking. And camping was always like the cornerstone of those activities. And I still do a lot of traditional tent camping today. But RVing was something that I never really thought about until, rewind 6 years ago. My daughter was born. And I remember our first camping trip. I had one of those big Coleman tents. They look like a small house. And I had it loaded up with pack and play and toys and little juvie rolling around thing in there. And I don't remember when it was during that trip, but it probably was maybe when I was packing things up. I was looking around and I saw these RVs around me. And I thought to myself, well, that looks pretty convenient. I don't know anything about them, but I'm going to just do a little bit of Googling and look online and see what I could find out. And it didn't take long until after that I was looking on Craigslist for a used RV. And shortly afterwards, I found it was a 2005 Sunray Smoky. I don't even know if they still make that model or the manufacturer still exists today. But we bought that. It served us well. I had a lot of problems and things I had to fix in it, but I learned a lot from having that. And from there, here I am today.
Awesome. Yeah, I think RVing is kind of the tail end of that evolution of camping, when you either run out of room in your tent or you're looking for something a little more comfortable than the air mattress, and RV starts to look really nice.
Especially when you have kids and you have
Yes.
mud kids, and having a place to take them back when they're covered in mud and throw them in the tub and wash them off makes life much more enjoyable when you're camping.
Yes, absolutely. It's invaluable. So what kind of rig are you traveling in now?
I have a 2019 Keystone Outback. I think the model is a 29 UBH. It's a bunkhouse model, a travel trailer. It has a slide out, which we didn't have in our original used RV. And yeah, we love it. It's been great.
Awesome. What's your favorite destination, favorite place that you've traveled?
Well, I have probably more places on my bucket list that I want to visit than I can count. I can't wait to take my daughter out to the West, especially out in Colorado, where I spent a lot of time when I was younger, and do some camping there. But I think on the East Coast, I would say my favorite place is up in Maine, Bar Harbor, right around Acadia National Park. There's so much fun stuff to do there, lots of outdoor activities, and the scenery is just breathtaking. So I would probably put that at the top of my list. And the lobster. You can't forget the lobster up there.
Absolutely. I have not been to Maine, but we do a lot of writing about destinations for RVers, and that's one of those places that I'm just so jealous when I get to see pictures from Maine because it looks beautiful, especially in the fall. We don't really get seasons here in San Diego, so pretty jealous of that East Coast fall.
Yeah, they call it vacation land, I believe, and I think people that go there, they realize why it's so special.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you're an RVer, you're an outdoorsman. How did you get around to creating Outdoor Miles?
Well, I think it was primarily as kind of a creative outlet for myself. I work full time and I love what I do, but I would always find, like, in the evenings when my daughter was in bed, I would be online and researching things about RVing or camping or outdoor activities, or I would be on a forum answering questions that people had and trying to help people out. And I always had this like little entrepreneurial bug in me that I wanted to try and explore. And at one point I sat down and I was like, well, if I'm already spending the time learning about and talking about RVing and camping, maybe I could reinvest that into something that would kind of give me that creative outlet. And here we are, Outdoor Miles, talking with you guys. So it's kind of like I just kind of walked into it, no big plans or anything when I started out, and I'm just enjoying it so far.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. A natural transition into turning that into a creative outlet and a place for, I think, a lot of the affiliates that we work with. It's putting everything that you were looking for or that you found useful into one place so that you can help out other RVers as well.
Yeah, there's this saying, I listened to this podcast talking about how to start up a business and stuff, and one of the taglines that they have is your 9 to 5 makes you a living, but it's your 5 to 9 that keeps you alive. So I've been really enjoying the long hours and work that's been going into it, but it's been fun. I've been meeting a lot of people and talking with a lot of RVers and learning a lot myself.
That's awesome. For everybody that's on or just joining us, we're talking to Tom of Outdoor Miles. Be sure to stay on, like, and comment. We are doing a giveaway at the end of our interview, so you'll want to stick around for that. It's for Tom's favorite RV gadget, and I think it's going to be super useful. So stick around, like, comment. Okay, so Outdoor Miles is all things RVing. So I assume you know a lot about where RVing is going. Can you kind of give us your insight on where the RV industry is today and maybe where it's headed?
Sure, I'll do my best. I think this is a big question that a lot of people are, especially if you're in the industry, you're trying to figure out. But I think, the one thing that we do know is that we're living in a really exciting time when it comes to the camping and RV industry. And I don't know if you remember, I think it was a couple of years ago, there was this thing that happened. It was like a pandemic type thing. Yeah, do you remember that?
Rings a bell, yeah.
Okay, well, that kind of reshuffled the deck for the camping and RV industries. And things look so much different today than they did just a couple of years ago. And, I think one of the big reasons is, like, if we travel back to when COVID came out, it was back in March of 2020. The world was pretty much shutting down. People were canceling vacation plans. If you were planning to take a vacation, that was kind of put on hold. You couldn't even think about, making any plans for that. And people were just scared. It was just a really confusing time. And, I think we all had our own personal experience with it, but probably the thing we all had in common with it was that there was just a lot of unknowns and we didn't kind of know where things were going to go. But for the camping and RV industry, it really created like the perfect storm, and one that would prove to be a really big boom for the industry. And if we think about all the conditions of that storm, people were restless. Were wanting to get outside, but they were, stuck at home and, constrained by the fear of COVID or the inability to even do something if they wanted to. But as science started to advance on COVID, it was becoming increasingly clear that one of the safest activities that you can do was to be outside. And, at the same time, the majority of the country, people were working remotely. I work in a field where I never thought in a million years that I would be working from home for, I think it was almost 2 years. But I think a lot of people found themselves in that same situation. The government decided, well, they wanted to try and keep the economy going during this time. So they issued stimulus checks. People had a little bit more money in their pocket if they were lucky enough to continue working through the pandemic. There was a little money they had to play with. And I think the combination of all this stuff really opened people's eyes to RVing and camping as a possibility. People that never even thought about it before. And if you look at the numbers between 2019 and 2021, there was a 36% increase in the number of households that camped. Last year, nearly 60 million households went camping, and 9.1 million households were camping for the first time ever. And that they're big numbers. They're the numbers that can change the course of different businesses and industries and shift the markets a bit. And I think we've seen that.
Absolutely. If you guys are watching and you're an RVer, I'd be interested to know, did you RV before the pandemic? Do you travel and work? Leave that in the comments. That's a great way to enter for the giveaway too. But curious, because we have seen as well just a kind of a change in the demographics. So many new RVers, families that are RVing, people that are able to work remotely that are RVing. It has been a really exciting time for the industry and the community. Really cool to see it kind of broaden and open up as a possibility for so many more people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, I'm a big advocate of the outdoors and protecting our environment, but I think the best way to really do that is to get people, disconnected from their devices and to spend time outside and outdoors. And there's really no better way to do that than to, take a trip and go camping and be outdoors. And that's been, I think a result of the pandemic and people wanting to look for this alternative way of vacationing. But I think in the long term, it will hopefully engender like a lot more respect and caring for the environment and having people wanting to, protect something that they love and that they enjoy doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if RVers get enough credit for how respectful they are, in general, of the amazing places that they're going to visit in their RV, which are usually things like national parks or these amazing outdoor spaces. I think you might hear the bad stories or the horror stories from people that leave their campgrounds, a mess. But generally speaking, we know enough of the RV community to know that there is that level of respect there. And I think protecting the places that you want to go see is such an important part of being an RVer.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. So kind of what's next? So we have all these new RVers. Do you see any changes for like models or products that you think are coming out in the RV world?
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of changes that we're likely going to see in the RV world, but the camping industry as well. And I think when we think back to all of these new campers, one of the things we were chatting about before the interview started was just the demand that's been placed out there on the RV industry. And, if you were trying to buy an RV back at the end of 2020 or even last year, it was difficult because there were so many more people that were looking to get into RVing and the RV lifestyle. So, demand for RVs has increased. Demand for campsites has increased as well. I think last year, or it was in 2020, the capacity of available campsites throughout the country was at near capacity. The demand for camping related services has increased. RV repairs, and if you're trying to find a mobile technician, there's not enough of them out there to service all the needs that are out there. And the demand for RV accessories. I remember during the pandemic, I was trying to find the little pods that you put in the black tank to treat the waste, and they were hard to find. And I think there was a lot of this increased demand that was placed on the industry when you had such an interest in people doing it, that it created an opportunity for investment. And I think we're going to see the results of those investments because there's money to be made by all of the players in the RV and camping related industries. And it's exciting to see what they're going to be. I think we'll see new RVs come out. Those new RVs are probably going to look a little bit different. They're going to be smaller and lighter,
Yes.
catering more to the crowd that they don't want to buy a big, um, you know, 1-ton pickup truck to be able to go camping.
Yeah.
They might want to use
Right.
their 4-cylinder SUV. Um, we're going to see different campgrounds start to emerge. If you've been camping over the past couple of years, it's been very noticeable to me, but there's almost in almost every campground, there's some type of expansion happening, whether they're improving existing sites, adding new sites, or maybe there's entirely new campgrounds being built. But since the demand is there, I think we're going to see an increase in the number of campsites throughout the country, and they're going to look a little bit different. There's going to be niche campsites. I know like the likes of like Tent R&R and Hip Camp are gaining in momentum. But then you also have things like Boondockers Welcome and Harvest Host. I think you guys had one of the gentlemen on from Harvest Host not too long ago.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, we love that as an option, an alternative kind of way to camp, and boondocking in general, I think gained a lot of popularity when you couldn't find a campsite. As we were mentioning, it was, things were pretty packed in the last couple of years. So another great option, another kind of direction that we're seeing RVers go.
yeah, absolutely. And I think they're the type of things that we're going to see starting to become a little bit more mainstream. And that includes like things like RV rentals and the new campers that are coming into the camping lifestyle. They're largely driven by the millennials who they would rather have experiences versus own things. And camping is an experience. And I think we're going to see a lot of just changes happen, and likely good changes happen in the near future for the campers.
Yeah, absolutely. We're definitely seeing, like you mentioned, kind of the smaller RVs, Class Bs or smaller towables are gaining popularity, which I think is also just a great way to get into it. I know for me, I mean, I've been in this industry for 12 years now, and I still could not possibly imagine getting behind the wheel of a Class A. That's probably just not something I would ever want to do. So I love that there are so many of these there's Class Bs, the Super Cs, kind of expanding those classic types of RVs that we've seen to really meet everyone where they're at and the type of camping experience that they're looking for.
Yeah, and there's some really cool RVs that are like, that are out there. And I think, we've, at least for me, like, looking at the new RVs that have been coming out every year, you kind of look for, it's the same RV with a different floor plan or a slightly different floor plan. But I think in the near future, you're going to start seeing small startup RV manufacturers come in with, filling a niche where there isn't a lot of good options. And, I think one of those things that will likely drive some of the changes in the RV industry is going to be people that are able to RV because of the ability to have remote work options. Back in 2021, 50% of the millennials that were camping, they were working while they were camping. And there was a recent study that was done, and it's based off of RVing campers, and there's over, I think it was 40 some percent of campers are interested in exploring a full-time camping lifestyle. And I don't know what that was back in 2019, but I think probably the tide shifted a bit, and people are looking at that as a viable option.
Absolutely. We do have a comment. Kathy is asking if boondocking is difficult. Do you have any boondocking experience?
A little bit. It's not difficult. The hardest thing about boondocking really is trying to learn how to do without. When you're at a full hookup campsite, you have electricity, you have water, and you have sewer. RVs are designed to provide you all of that stuff without being connected to a grid, but it's limited in some of the things that you can actually do. So if you need electricity, either you have to have a solar system set up, or maybe you have a generator. If you need water, you have the water that you can bring with you. If you have waste, you have the capacity for the waste that you can carry back out with you. So it's not hard. It's just kind of a different mindset when it comes to camping. But people that do it love it, and it's something that I think I know people that they don't want to go camping unless they're off the grid, away from other people.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely it's a little bit different. I think as with anything RVing, it's just preparation. Like you said, knowing what your capacity is and knowing that that's what you've got and that's the water you've got. And maybe if I were to boondock, I would probably start with a smaller trip, not plan to be, in the middle of the desert for 3 weeks and stretch out everything as far as I could, but maybe a couple of days and see if it's for you. But I think there is something to getting away from those big campgrounds sometimes and really immersing yourself in somewhere off the grid.
Yeah, if you're interested in trying it out, there's a really cool app, and I may get it wrong. It's either called Roam Free or Free Roam, but it's a free app that you can download from the Apple App Store or for your Android phone. But it will list all of the different places throughout the country where you can go boondocking. And if you live out west, you got it made. You have a bazillion different places where you can go.
Yes.
On the East Coast, it's a little bit more limited, but no matter where you live or what state you live in, there's opportunities out there to do it.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's something every RVer should try, at least once, at least one short trip and really get that off the grid experience. Okay, so something else that we had kind of talked about, what about electric vehicles? How do you see that impacting the RV industry?
Well, it's not a question of if the electric vehicle technology will become a commonplace for RVers, it's a matter of when. And if we look back to electric vehicles and passenger cars, that's gone through the electric vehicle revolution already, and we're starting to see the electric vehicles become mainstream. And by 2030, the major auto manufacturers are predicting that 50% of the cars that they sell are going to be electric. That's only 8 years away, and we know how fast 8 years go. And then by 2040, it's predicted that all new vehicles that are sold are going to be electric. Wow. I find that hard to imagine, but I think the trajectory that we're on is leading to that being a reality. Back in 2010, I bought a Toyota Prius, and I was just amazed by the technology in that, and I thought it was like the greatest sliced bread. But that technology is already 12 years old or 15 years old, and we've come a really long way from there. Back in 2012, I think there were 125,000 EV or hybrid vehicles sold. Last year, 6.4 million. So I mean, the amount of vehicles that are being put into the mainstream market right now that are electric is just amazing. Now we're talking about passenger cars. Passenger cars are small. You can throw batteries in them, and we have proven that you can make them go for a long distance, 300, 400 miles on a single charge. Makes it very doable if you're commuting to work or you're going on a trip or you're going on vacation. Now, when we look at RVs, we have big vehicles, we have heavy vehicles, and the challenge there is not so much the capability of moving those vehicles and those RVs, it's how far you can actually move them. But we've seen some really exciting things happen recently with the introduction of electric trucks. Last year, Ford released the F-150 Lightning, and then Rivian released their electric truck, which are more than capable of towing heavy loads. I think the F-150 can tow 10,000 pounds and the Rivian can tow 11,000 pounds. And they have more foot-pound of torque than their competing gasoline or diesel models. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, I definitely see that kind of being the future. And I'm interested to see, in a motorhome, what an electric motorhome is going to look like. I know that there have been some, test models and things like that have come out. But that really does feel like it'll be a direction that the industry starts to move, and what that looks like for us, unique extended service contracts and repairs for that type of vehicle. I think it'll be a really interesting change to see play out.
And I think, the change will start to happen when battery technology improves. Right now, battery technology is amazing because it's allowing for the creation of electric vehicles, but it's also the Achilles heel of the trucking industry and the RV industry. If you have a 10,000 pound RV pulling it with the F-150 Lightning, you're going to be very lucky to make it 100 miles before you need a recharge. And
Right.
while you can drive a car from New York to LA and recharge as much as you want and not have to worry about finding a place, you would be very hard pressed to find a place where you can pull in with a 30-foot trailer attached to your truck, charge up
Yeah.
every 100 miles. And until that changes, I don't think we're going to see RV, fully electric RVs, or fully electric trucks towing RVs come into the
Right.
mix. But there is a really exciting change. I'm really excited to kind of see, if you've thought about this at all, from your industry. But there's a shift to start thinking about more RVs that are better integrated with the electric vehicles, where you would have an electric drivetrain in a towable RV that would provide its own propulsion. So you would limit the amount of battery capacity that you would need for a truck or an electric vehicle to tow it. And there's
Wow.
I think the first one that came out is Thor Industries Airstream. They released their eStream, which is going to have electric drivetrain in the RV itself that will help you park it as well. But I think it's that type of technology that's going to kind of bridge that gap until we have better batteries that can
Right.
heavier loads longer.
Yeah, kind of the old and the new technology working together until we kind of have the infrastructure to really move into electric only. Yeah, it's really interesting, and it's there have been a ton of changes, obviously, in the last. Wholesale Warranties has been in business for over almost 2 decades. Ton of changes, but I think this would probably be the biggest. So to see that it would be new contracts and new types of repair, and hopefully something that we think about as an industry. We try to train more RV mechanics, because we already don't have enough, and then we'll need them to know how to fix some of these new electric vehicles as well. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But exciting. It's change is scary but good, and I'm excited to see how this kind of goes.
Definitely.
All right. Thank you everyone for sticking around. If you have any other questions, feel free to leave them in the comments. We'll be on for a couple more minutes. As I mentioned at the beginning, we are going to be doing a giveaway. Tom, can you tell us what this RV gadget, your favorite RV gadget, is?
I will. I'll actually grab it because I didn't bring it over ahead of time, and I'm in my RV right now, so let me get it.
Awesome. Make sure you get in your likes and your comments, because we will be choosing the giveaway winner in just a minute here.
All right. So I was trying to think of something that I could provide as a giveaway for this Facebook Live interview. And I was trying to think about, well, what do I use every day in my RV that somebody else might find valuable? And it's this little unit right here. This is a Govee wireless thermometer and humidity reader. And it has an outdoor sensor and an indoor sensor, which I know you can buy these pretty much anywhere, but this one actually connects to the web and will record all of your data that you have. So if you are living in your RV, or you spend a lot of time in there in the summer or in the winter, and you want to track, well, what's the temperature? Are my pipes going to freeze? Or what's the humidity in there? Am I getting to a point where I have to worry about mold growing? This little unit has been awesome. I've had it going, it's been going for over a year now. I just changed the batteries yesterday for the outdoor unit, so it lasts a long time. But you can connect it to your smartphone, get all the data on there. And if you want to see some of the applications for it, if you go to my website, I have some articles on there where I review it, but I also have been tracking data over the winter to see how the RV responds to the cold temperatures. And this has been working fantastic. So
awesome. I think that's super useful. I mentioned earlier that we're in San Diego, so we kind of always know what the temperature is going to be, but I can imagine that there are places where that is particularly useful, especially the humidity, like you mentioned, and then in the winter months, if you are RVing in winter, which I know a lot of people do, and I think is really cool, knowing just how cold it is a really important part of making sure your RV is prepared for that weather. All right, so we're going to pick our winner. I'm going to wait for my behind the scenes crew to send me that name. But thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for talking, giving us such great information on kind of where the industry is at and where it's headed. If you're watching this on the replay, we still want to hear from you. I'd love to know, your thoughts as a member of the RV community on what camping looks like now, if you're interested in the electric vehicles that may be coming out in, the next decade or so. And let's see. All right, we've got our winner on a piece of paper. I feel like I'm announcing a winner at the Oscars right now. Okay, Kathy Osinski. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Congratulations. We're going to be sending over a direct message to you on Facebook to get your information, and we will get you this awesome RV gadget. All right, I think that's it. Tom, where do we find you? So now that we know you are a wealth of RV information, if I'm watching, I definitely want to be able to follow your website. How do we find Outdoor Miles?
Sure. Well, thank you, Stacey. It's been really fun doing this, talking about RVs with you. But for anybody watching or that watches in the future, if you want to check us out, you can go to www.outdoormiles.com. Or if you are on Facebook, we have a Facebook group and a Facebook page, and you can easily connect with me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. Or if you have some RV issues or questions, let me know. I'll do my best to answer them.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us, and happy travels.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.